Alright guys, we're going to have a little bit of a different video today. We wanted to talk about proxies, whether you make paper proxies like this or you buy high quality proxies, and the reason that we suggest that people do practice with proxies even if you don't have the cards. So whether you go at home and you print a card like this where it's a black and white because that's all you have your yellows and your pitch cost and everything else here. You know, we suggest that you do some type of proxy, even if you have a colored printer, prints a little better. But what I suggest is you go to your local library, you get a card like this, prints off in a sheet like this. It's literally 25 cents to 50 cents, depending on what library you go to, and they're really, really nice proxies. But the real reason we want to talk about proxies is because of piloting issues. And the person sitting across from me can also attest to this. The big problem that you have with not having the card in your deck is you think, okay, I'll wait to buy an Eye of Ophidia for my deck to practice with it. And the number one thing that we've run into is that proxying a card out, like the Eye of Ophidia here, is you don't get to learn the pilot side of the deck. James, why don't you tell them kind of where you're coming from on that, because I know you've been practicing with the proxy of the Eye of Ophidia.
One that's also makes it look like is the card worth the price to pay? How is it functioning in my deck? What am I able to do with it as I play it? How does it pan out in the long run? What am I really doing with it? I have to take a look at all that factors when I'm playing the card or when I'm proxying a card in. Is it worth the value? If it's worth it and it helps the deck tremendously function the way I want it to function, that lets me know, hey, okay, it's worth paying for. Or then if it comes down to that, it's like, okay, looking at playability. How well does the card play into the deck? How well can I use the card to maximize its value in the deck? If I can't find a way to actually justify the use of the card, but justify the cost, is it still worth buying the card?
And that's a really good point. Is it worth spending $500 on an Eye of Ophidia to get the practice in with it and saying, okay, well, everyone else is playing it, so I'll just swap it out in my deck, but you don't have the pilot experience, right?
Right.
So if you hadn't had the pilot experience of proxying the Eye in right now, do you think that your gameplay would have been different when you finally put the Eye in? Compared to...
It was a huge jump when I first proxied the card in and started trying to play with it. Realizing, okay, I've got to remember how this is going to trigger when I play it. And learning, oh, this can set up my turn, this can do so much other things. It counts as a pitch. Lets me play 3/1 cost, and I get to do something else. It helps, but is it breaking my gameplay if I don't play it? I don't think it will. And honestly, I don't think it will. Will it help improve my chances of winning? Yes. For the simple fact that I'm able to set those turns with the Eye up in the current deck that it's running.
Okay,
you've seen part of that.
Right. So, but my big question is how much of a shift in gameplay would it have been for you to have not played it and then all of a sudden try to put it in your deck to go to a bigger event? Would you have been able to play at the same pilot level? Where what I'm talking about by piloting the deck is your experience in running the deck. Would that have shifted that?
Yes and no. And I say that on both sides of the scale. Is yes, because I've never played the card. So having to realize what it's doing is a huge difference. But piloting the deck type that it's playing into doesn't change the play style of my deck in the slightest.
Right, but it does change the understanding of that card.
It changes how I would play the hands, a few of those hands out with that card in play versus how I would have played it without it.
Right.
That does bring a huge change when you're going from not playing the card to, oh, now I have it, and you run across the times when you get it and you're like, okay,
Now how do I use it and fire it to the best of its ability,
Right.
using my equipment and everything else? And that's the exact point that I'm trying to get across and show all of you guys, is that when you have a card that you want to put in your deck, like this eye right here, let's go ahead and shift this, since this is the whole reason of printing this, and we put this beautiful eye into the deck as this wonderful proxy card. We now get to experience what it's like to actually draw into this card and see it in our hands. And a great thing about, you know, having the channel and having, you know, things like us is we can go back and watch the videos that we do where we play the Eye of Ophidia and we play a lot of the other stuff to see, okay, well, wait a minute, I mistriggered this. I could have played the eye, looked at this, saw what my next card was gonna be, so that when I drew into my card, I get to hit that 6 power for, you know, my brute that I'm playing. So I guarantee that I'm gonna be able to discard a 6 card rather than having a 1 in 3 odds of not hitting it correctly.
Right, and when I first started playing the card, it basically came to the point where I was trying to hold on to it, trying to set for a berserk blood rush turn, or something where I can pop out multiple attacks for you know, 7, 14 points, 16 points worth of damage, just so I could try to, like, okay, I can do this because I'm this is what's coming, this is what I've got, instead of using it as I can. Like, as soon as I get it, okay, cool, unless I've got things set up, I could easily pitch it, look at my next few cards, and be ready for my next turn. Like you said, it's like I'm learning how to maximize the card within the deck that I'm playing, thus being able to make the best of it.
Right, and so the main reason that we printed a lot of legendaries today is because some of these cards, you know, we're missing in our collection, so we don't get to technically play with them right now, although we're still trying to open and find some of the cards. Some of the cards we have, like I do have a library, but I have a cold foil, and so I don't really want to play that in my deck, so I want to play this instead so that I can get the experience with it, but I'm not putting my very expensive card that is on my shelf in stream.
Much like your Eye of
Ophidia
Ophidia that you have put up in your binder,
right,
that you don't want to pull out.
Some of these cards, like the Heart, the Eye of Ophidia, the Library, all of these cards are $500 plus cards, and some people may not be comfortable pulling those out of binders all the time to practice with them. I mean, if you're going to a major tournament, sure, we can throw it in a deck and if we can go far places. And same with the Husk. I think the Husk is still up there.
And that might come down to the question, if you're taking it to a high level tournament, if you can pull aside and talk to a head judge, maybe you can talk to them, show them the actual card, show them the proxy, and they may allow it. And that's going to be at their discretion.
Well, that also leads to the point of having a higher quality proxy, like from these proxy websites, leads to having a better card that judges go, okay, it's the correct thickness, it doesn't feel wrong, it's sleeved up properly, it doesn't affect the deck, you do have the real one, so we'll allow it. Now, some tournaments may, some tournaments may not. That really depends on, like you said, the tournament organizer and the judges that are on hand. But the big thing, like I said here, it's not so much to have it for tournament purposes, is more just, in this case, is to have it to learn, to see if you want to actually dump the money into, you know, a $100 card. I'm going to assume that $500 cards are out of reach for most people that are watching our channel. Some may not be, some maybe.
I'm cringing at that $500 one for me.
Yeah, so even things like Flamescale that are 150 that are more reasonable, you know, Heart, you know, a lot of these other legendaries, these are very obtainable legendaries for most people. They're still a good chunk of change for most people, but this is a good way to see if it's worth the money that you're going to be putting into that card before you ever have to drop the money. Because everyone's like, okay, well, I'm not doing well in my deck, so I'm gonna go buy this card and it'll help. Well, technically, is it you're piloting the deck wrong? Is the deck built wrong? Or is it that card that's making the problem? Buying proxies like this and trying it out, wouldn't you say is one of the best ways to feel if that's good for your deck or not?
One, yes, that it would help to let you know if the deck is a pilot error, a build error, or if it simply is the card. Another deal is also proxying the card in, doing the proxies on the cards. Also, you can get a feel for the hero itself and find out, is this a hero that I like and I can play? Does it function with my play style? Do I like the way this plays? Do I not? And if you don't, then you've saved the money that you would have spent on the actual card simply by paying 50 cents at your local
library, and maybe $7 for one of these, $10 for one of these, and
you know, let's say brass tacks. Say you spend $30 for a cutter and printing these nice fine proxies at your local library, versus spending $75 for one card that you feel is going to make or break your deck. That you find out, I really don't like this hero. So, but that one card you bought is now locked to that specific hero or that specific class, and you don't.
And it gets worse when you're talking about legendaries that are locked into classes like Mask of Momentum, the Hood, some of these other classes where you may need 2 legendaries like Shock Charmers and the gloves for the wizards in order to be able to buy those. So now we're looking at a $150 card plus a $150 card, and now you're locked into wizard. Where, like James said, this is simply, you know, maybe a maximum of $30. You can print off a ton of cards. I think I spent $2 on this. My local card shop let me use this. So in all essence, I literally have $2 into printing all of this off. And you can literally have a pair of scissors. You don't need one of these. So for $2, I printed all of these cards off. And we can practice with them, we can play them, we can see if they're worth the money. Now, some of these cards like these are gonna be worth the money. They're much cheaper. It's just, you know, our local card shop hasn't had them in, so we haven't been able to pick them up.
I believe the Beast Within, the Massacre, the Pack Call, and the Bighorn are cards I needed for my deck that are proxied in currently. The Bighorns I currently have, I just haven't, I need to go pull them out of a store building because I'm getting ready to be ready to move. But like the Massacres and the Beast Within, I believe I priced them on TCG, and it's roughly close to $20 is what and the Pack Calls are basically what it's going to cost me is around 20.
Which is really obtainable, but just right now, our card shops haven't had them in, so we still want to be able to get the practice in with them, and we just haven't ordered them off TCG yet, so we've gotten the practice in, and this is allowing us to go even farther and practice with those. You want to put what you need in for those, and kind of, like I said, guys, it's just that way of, you know, getting the practice in, whether you have ordered the card and it's just going to take a minute to come in or whatever else. We just want to show you that this is really an easy and cheap way to practice with those cards, get those cards out there, and overall just have a better pilot experience for when you do get those cards in the deck. Because as much as I want to say piloting the deck comes down to a lot of the deck, but when you get to the higher end play, if you're not piloting your deck at 100%, which is why proxying, in my opinion, should be something that people do more often, you're not going to be playing on the same tier level as a lot of the other people. Now, when you're playing in the big leagues at CC events and things like that, you have to be piloting your deck at 100%, and then it comes down to cards and those 1%, you know, legendaries that they have that are better than yours, and that's simply just due to matchups, that whether card draws and things like that. But if you're really trying to get more competitive, this is the route that I would suggest you guys go.
I'm not gonna lie, this looks so much better looking at with these than versus those black and whites I started with.
And like I said, this was $2 at my local library. These were from my actual printer at my house. These were from just a black and white printer somewhere else.
Printer at my job.
Yeah, so this is just kind of show you guys. I hope this helps. I hope this kind of gives you guys some incentive to maybe print off some proxies, practice with some cards before you throw money down on the high dollar cards.
And don't be afraid to ask people at your locals that you're going to your armory events. Don't be afraid to ask them, like, hey, I've got a deck that's got proxies. Do you mind if I play it? Worst things they're going to tell you is what? No. I mean, even if they say sure you can, and they allow you to, and your organizer lets you run them in the tournament, great. If they don't allow it, don't be afraid to, hey, after we're done, do you mind playing? Because I want to try to get some practice with this deck. I'm trying to get this deck working, and before you actually start to play it, so you can get the idea of how it's running, so you can make all your changes without having to go week to week and taking losses left and right and start to feel dejected, like you're not getting anywhere with the deck.
Right, and it just comes down to also asking people that, you know, maybe play that hero, hey, I'm trying to, you know, get this deck to run a little better. Any suggestions that you have for me? I want it to function more along these lines than this lines. You know, overall, we are here as a community, and we really want to help one another. It's the reason that I do these videos. That's really all for today, guys. I hope you take something away from this, and we will see you on the flip side.